Well, shit, that was certainly an entertaining basketball game, I'll tell you what. It was somehow equally as entertaining as it was befuddling, but the Celtics were able to avoid just a colossal upset in game one against the Indiana Pacers, and both teams just actively were trying not to win this game. It was very insane, but I do have a few notes from this game. I really wasn't planning on recording tonight, but because the game was nuts and I really thought the Pacers were about to walk out of TD Garden with a victory, but then the Pacers collapsed with 2 turnovers in the final 20 seconds. Jason Tatum had a dumb shot with like 15 seconds left in regulation off of an offensive rebound that I did not understand. The conversation of should you foul when you're up 3 is also going to rear its ugly head again because the Pacers did not decide to foul. And then in overtime, the Celtics were also trying to actively lose with a dumb Jason Tatum turnover. It was just too insane not to record and also not talk about the things I saw in game 1 that I think can give the Pacers some hope moving forward, even though they just completely barfed up that game. Let's start with one thing that stuck out to me immediately. One, the Pacers bench is once again going to be a factor in this series. Whenever the Celtics went into their bench and changed the lineup combinations, and you know there were some starters in there mixed in with Pritchard, Lou Cornett, and Sam Hauser, that's when the Pacers would make their inroads in this game, because there were a few times in this game where the Celtics just clearly looked like the better team, and defensively they were engaged, they were locked in, they were getting to the rim. But when the Celtics started to go a little bit into their bench, the Pacers bench just outplayed the Celtics and a few times were able to bring him back in this game, specifically TJ McConnell, who has just been awesome all playoffs. And of course, because I'm a Sixer fan, my process heart just always roots for TJ McConnell. And Obi Toppin had 15. Ben Shepherd, even though I don't think he played particularly well, he is still a useful rotation player, and he's a rookie, so he was bound to have a down playoff game. But the Pacers bench outscored the Celtics bench 30-13. And not only that, I thought Pritchard and Lou Cornett were especially liabilities on the floor. Even though Pritchard had 8 points, I didn't like some of the shot selection in this game, especially as the Pacers were making their comeback to claw back into the game. And Pritchard just could not guard TJ McConnell. There was just all types of problems that the Pacers bench presented whenever the Celtics had some of their reserves in. And then, of course, the Pacers pick and roll. I'm very intrigued with how the Celtics are going to try to counter that throughout this series, because it's clear the Celtics were in a drop with Al Horford. They were in a drop with Lou Cornett. They're probably going to be in a drop with Porzingis when he comes back. But the Pacers were just killing that, whether it was a Miles Turner pick and pop, whether it was Halliburton shooting off the dribble threes while Al Horford was in that drop coverage, and they attacked Al Horford a lot, especially in that fourth quarter. The Pacers have sort of something to pick at throughout the series until at least Porzingis comes back, because Al Horford, and he did make some good plays in overtime, they were killing him, especially in that fourth quarter. They didn't switch a ton, but whenever the Celtics did switch, then it was Siakam, being guarded by someone like Derek White on the block, or Al Horford having to check in space against Andrew Nembhard. And Nembhard had a few mid-range jumpers late in the fourth quarter against Al Horford in that drop coverage / switching off onto Nembhard. Pascal Siakam was attacking Al Horford from the free throw line via mid-range jumpers because Al Horford just did not want to give up the drive to Siakam. They were just attacking Al Horford relentlessly in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And on top of that, he was 3 of 12 from 3. Al Horford was bricking a lot of threes. And I think the Pacers are willing to live with that, unless Horford has a hot shooting game, like 5 of 6 from 3 or whatever. But those are two things I'm looking at. The drop coverage defense of the Celtics, how they adjust to that. They also moved Horford onto Aaron Nesmith instead of guarding Miles Turner, because Miles Turner once again had a really good game, and Miles Turner has been great all playoffs, but they had to switch Horford off of Turner. There's little interesting matchup combinations and little pockets in the game where I think the Pacers can take advantage, especially if the Celtics bench players don't play well. Hauser was 0 for 2 from 3, and he only played 9 minutes. Cornett was getting killed on the defensive end. And then not only that, the decision making in that fourth quarter from both teams, but especially Boston, I'm just befuddled by Boston sometimes. It just boiled down to isolation and threes, no action. Whenever they did try to do some pick and roll or screening action, it was late into the shot clock. There's just a lot of stuff that the Celtics did that really confused me. Derek White trying to take an early in the clock three late in the game and ended up being blocked by Halliburton. That was off of a Drew Holiday handoff. I just don't know why the Celtics make some of these decisions. And then in overtime, Joe Mazzulla, I don't know if he galaxy brained himself or not, but fouling up 6, that's insane behavior, especially when on the second miss on that free throw, Tatum fouls Obi Toppin trying to rebound the ball, and Obi Toppin makes 2 free throws to cut the lead to 3. It's just, I don't understand this team sometimes. The Pacers, they tricked that game off like no other. That was a masterclass in fucking a game off. A turnover from Nembhard out of bounds. Well, first it was a turnover from Halliburton, and then that's when all that madness started after Nembhard threw the ball off of Siakam as he was trying to come to the ball. And then the Celtics were able to get a corner 3 from Jaylen Brown out of the timeout that was really, really contested well by Pascal Siakam. And honestly, the Pacers could have fouled there, but also the fan in me just wants to see some good hoops also. And I kind of liked that we got to see that possession through. And Jaylen Brown made a tough shot. Pascal Siakam defended that about as well as you could. Even tried to keep his hands out of the cookie jar. He was showing the refs that his hands were out, and Brown just hit a very tough shot. But the Pacers really tricked this game off. And then there was another play in overtime where Halliburton, with no other Pacer with him or under the basket, took a pull-up 3 in transition where it was like, oh shit, you're really taking that shot. But then Derek White fouls him, and the Pacers were up 2 after the 3 free throws. Just really some confusing and befuddling stuff in this game. But for 3 quarters, mostly 3.5 quarters, I liked the Celtics' offensive approach. Tatum was getting to the rim a lot. And aside from that shot and that dumb turnover in overtime where he tried to pass it to Drew Holiday after Holiday set a screen, but Holiday didn't pop out quick enough and Tatum just threw it into space, Tatum was awesome in this game. 35 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, played some awesome defense on Siakam, even though that's, I think, a tough matchup for Tatum because Siakam is just a little bit bigger than Tatum, just in terms of strength, even though they are basically the same height. Siakam's a tough matchup. Jaylen Brown, I thought, played well. Drew Holiday forced some key stops like that turnover on Halliburton in overtime. But this series is going to be very interesting. And I know there's a lot of jokes right now saying whoever's going to win the finals is going to come out of the Western Conference because they just saw how dumb this Celtics team plays. I wouldn't go that far yet. A lot of the collective analysts have probably been dead wrong about these playoffs as far as predictions go, so I'm just going to play it out and wait and see. Even though I do have predictions for certain matchups, I'm interested to see how the Celtics come out in Game 2, because you can also say the Celtics had a lot of time off and the Pacers are fresh off of a Game 7 and are probably in more of a rhythm compared to the Celtics. But the Celtics escaped with this one, and it was via dumb basketball from both teams. And it was somehow entertaining as much as it was befuddling.